Boards and Commissions, Board of Licensure for Long-Term Care Administrators, 201 KAR 6040 with a staff suggested amendment.
201-6040 amends procedures for renewal, late renewal, and reinstatement of licensure for long-term care administrators to make technical corrections and update material incorporated by reference. The staff suggested amendment amends various sections to comply with KRS Chapter 13A.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, sir. Kevin Winstead, Commissioner of the Department of Professional Licensing. I'm the contact person for this regulation. And I'm accompanied today by Daniel Leffel, who's the legal advisor to the board.
There's a staff amendment. Is there a motion for approval of the staff amendment? Is there a second? Without objection, is so ordered. We seem to be a little sleepy this morning for some reason in our motions and seconds. Any questions from members? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board of Nursing, 201 KAR 20, 220, 280, and 360, all with staff suggested amendments.
201 KR 2220 amends to provide an electronic format for applications, set guidelines for verifying participant information, attendance, and presentation format, and update material incorporated by reference. 201 KR 2280 amends to add a new Section 7 that establishes the initial status and National Nursing Accrediting Body guidelines. 201 KR 2360 amends to require programs of nursing that are not accredited to become accredited within 4 years, and if accreditation is not maintained, a program may have its license removed. The staff amendments for 201 KR 2220, 280, and 360 all make changes for clarity and to comply with KRS Chapter 13A.
There are staff amendments. Is there a motion for approval of staff amendments?
Second.
Without objection, is so ordered. Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Kelly Jenkins, the Executive Director at the Kentucky Board of Nursing.
The General Counsel, Kentucky Board of Nursing.
Any questions from members on this set of regs from the Board of Nursing? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board of Physical Therapy, 201 KAR 22001 with staff suggested amendments. And additionally, 053 also with a staff suggested amendment.
201-22-001 is being amended to add additional definitions and language relating to 201 KR Chapter 22. 201-22-053 is being amended to add provisions that more clearly define and prohibit sexual misconduct between a PT and a PTA during the course of treatment. The staff suggested amendments to these regulations amends various sections to comply with the drafting requirements of KRS Chapter 13A and make technical changes.
Would you please identify yourself for the record? Could you bring that microphone a little closer? You get green button. Close enough. Thank you.
I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Board of Physical Therapy, Stephen Kirk.
Okay.
General Counsel.
Okay. Thank you. There are staff amendments. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Without objection, is so ordered. Any questions for these gentlemen on this set of regs? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Board of Medical Imaging and Radiation Therapy, 201 KAR 46020. This does not have additional amendments.
201-46020 amends licensure fees to add a $25 qualification fee for the registration of the limited X-ray machine operator examination and delete the $165 fee for the limited X-ray machine operator examination itself.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Good morning. Elizabeth Morgan, Board of Medical Imaging and Radiation Therapy.
There are no amendments. Do we have any questions from members? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Energy and Environment Cabinet, Department for Environmental Protections, Attainment and Maintenance of the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. 401 KAR 51010 with staff suggested amendments.
401-51010 amends ambient air quality standards to update the attainment status of geographic areas in Kentucky. The staff suggested amendment amends various sections to comply with KRS Chapter 13A.
Would you please identify yourself for the record? You're going to be, if you don't mind, you're going to be the guinea pig. I don't think those mics are working. Could you just, do you have a green button there? It's not coming on. Okay. Okay. Are they plugged in? We'll proceed. I have faith that there will not be that many questions on this set of regs. Would you please identify yourself for the record one more time? Thank you. There's a staff amendment. Is there a motion for approval of staff amendment? We have a motion. We have a second. Without objection, is so ordered. I do have one question. Could you just briefly describe, are we keeping up with a federal reg? Is that what we're doing here with this one? Could you describe that just a minute? Okay, gotcha. Okay. Any questions on this set of regs? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Education and Workforce Development Cabinet, Department of Workforce Investment. 787 KAR 3020 with staff suggested amendment.
This regulation establishes which records of the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services shall be considered confidential in order to encourage full disclosure of information on the part of job applicants and employers and to provide guidelines to employment service personnel in responding to requests for information. The staff suggested amendment adds a definition section and a section 3 and makes changes to sections 2 and 3 to comply with the drafting and formatting requirements of KRS Chapter 13A.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Good morning. My name is Michelle DeJoh, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services, and our Office of Legal Services is here as well.
Good morning. My name is Sky McFarland, attorney for the Education Workforce Development Cabinet.
Thank you. There is a staff amendment. Is there a motion for approval of staff amendment? There is a motion and a second. Without objection, it is so ordered. Any questions from members? Seeing none, please call the next regulation.
Thank you.
Public Protection Cabinet, Team Kentucky. 800 KAR 1020E. This does not have additional amendments.
800-1020 emergency only establishes provisions for the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund.
Good morning. Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, good morning. I'm DJ Wasson. I'm Chief of Staff for the Public Protection Cabinet. Can you all hear me? Do I need to move that? Okay.
We can.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. There are no amendments. Do any members have questions on this set of regs? I have one question. Is this briefly describe the reg and what are we doing for transparency of the funds, where they're going, how they're being spent, that sort of thing? If you
Certainly.
could talk about that briefly.
Certainly. So this is the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. This is the fund that was established by private donations, corporate donations following the tornadoes, December 10th and 11th. That is where the funds are going. They are being provided directly to individuals. So this is not for local governments. This is for those individuals and their needs. Transparency-wise, we have, obviously, there's been press announcements about what has been done. We have certainly talked to local leaders about the funds and those types of announcements in that manner, and certainly it would be subject to audit as another transparency method. I can explain a little bit where the funds have gone so far if that's of interest.
You say this pot of money, for lack of a better term,
Sure.
These are going mostly small grants to individuals. Is that
yes,
mostly what it is?
Assistance payments. So we've been looking really long term because immediately after the tornadoes, there's a lot of assistance, a lot of volunteers. But we did provide assistance for funeral payments for the families, for everyone who was lost their life in the tornadoes. We have provided money on top of what FEMA provided for uninsured homeowners and renters, realizing that FEMA's assistance doesn't cover all of the needs. We've also done that for insured homeowners and renters for repairs to homes and those types of immediate sheltering needs. We are now moving to look towards rebuilding efforts and talking to local governments about rebuilding efforts. So these funds go directly to individuals who we have verified have had a loss in the tornadoes.
I don't have to have an exact number, but roughly how much has the fund received and how much is still there?
Certainly. Roughly, we've received about $51 million. We've paid out about $10 million. And so now, again, we're saving that remaining $41 million, looking for the needs, making sure we're not duplicating resources. We want to be have the best use of those funds. So we're now talking to those long-term recovery groups and those types of needs in the area.
Thank you. Any Co-Chair Hale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much today for the update. I wanted to just, and maybe this is a question you might not exactly have the answer, but how have the individuals, has FEMA been available there for them through this whole process? Are they still there? And I guess my question, are individuals using the resources that FEMA has available? Have a lot of people utilized that?
Sir, I would have to get back to you on that question, and I'm happy to do that. I do know we've been in the area. I do know that there are still contacts in the area. I don't know if they're a constant presence or if it is, offices that they would need to contact. But we have been working through our Kentucky Emergency Management in the local areas. But I would have to get back to you about whether they're using those resources, and I can do that.
Okay, that's fine. And on the long-term recovery efforts, who does that involve? When you say long-term recovery, I mean, what do you actually mean by that?
To my knowledge, and again, this would be my limited knowledge because I don't work for emergency management or FEMA, but this is a model that has been used after disasters, after the immediate needs have passed. So it's local leaders, local resources like, for example, Catholic Charities, I believe, has been in discussions with them too. It's a model under FEMA that communities have used to assess the needs, assess how they want to rebuild, involving multiple voices and multiple local leaders, local government leaders that meet and make those types of decisions, how best to use the funds that have been donated to the communities and those types of things. So it's a collaborative effort within a local area.
And the reason I asked that is 10 years ago when the tornado came in the Morgan County, and actually where I reside, we had damage as well. and for probably 3 to 4 years after that, we had folks coming in, volunteer groups from all across the country, and they did a good job with that. And I'm just hoping that this will remain continuing on, not just for the next 6 months, but hopefully into the future, because it's going to take a long time. We all know that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm happy to pass those comments along to the individuals at Kentucky Emergency Management that are in those constant talks. I do know that these groups are just forming. We've met with the Graves County group, for example, but all of the impacted counties are starting to form their groups. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you so much.
Under Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, 810 KAR 7050 with a staff suggestion.
This regulation was amended to clarify that a horse can claim money from one Kentucky affiliate per year. The staff suggested amendment amends various sections to comply with KRS Chapter 13A.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Good morning. This is Jennifer Wolsing. I'm the General Counsel for the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission.
Good morning. Jamie.Eads, Deputy Executive Director for the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission and Division Director for the Incentives and Development.
Sean Dutta, Deputy General Counsel with the Racing Commission.
Good morning. There are staff amendments. There is a staff amendment. Is there a motion for approval of the staff amendment? There's a motion and a second. Without objection, it is so ordered. Any questions from members? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Cabinet for Health and Family Services, Office of Health Data Analytics, 900 KAR 13010. This does not have additional amendment.
This administrative regulation establishes requirements relating to the format and time schedule for submitting guaranteed acceptance program reports to the Office of Health Data Analytics for each calendar year in accordance with statute.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Hello, I'm Kim.Minter with Staff Assistant with the Office of Health Data and Analytics.
Hello, Edith Sloan, Director with the Health Benefit Exchange.
There are no amendments. Did someone else chime in?
I don't have to. I'm here.
There we go.
There.
Thank you. There are no amendments. Are there any questions from members? Seeing none, please call the next regulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Department for Public Health, 902 KAR 10120 with an agency amendment. This also had a staff suggested amendment that was passed in February. 902 KAR 10121 with an agency amendment. And 902 KAR 10190, this also had an amendment that passed in February.
902 KAR 10120 amends various swimming and bathing facility provisions concerning construction plan submission requirements, inspections, water features, openings and grates, disinfection, OSHA requirements, lifeguards and safety requirements, and forms. The agency amendment amends Section 12 to delete beach lifeguard requirements and insert provisions that allow a facility to submit an alternative lifeguard staffing plan if it meets certain requirements, to require lifeguards at all bathing beaches that allow bathers 17 years old or younger without a responsible adult, require that there be one lifeguard per 100 linear feet of beachfront or a fraction thereof, require bathing beaches to post warning signs if lifeguards are not provided, and require one lifeguard per inflatable water attraction with additional lifeguards to ensure all areas surrounding the attraction are clearly visible at all times. And it additionally amends Section 13 to require that life-saving equipment be centrally located in a conspicuous place that is readily accessible instead of requiring it to be located at each lifeguard chair, and that the lifeboat be located in the most central location instead of being required at the most centrally stationed lifeguard chair. 902 KAR 10121 establishes fees for various reviews and inspections related to swimming and bathing facilities, including those with interactive water features, spray and splash pads or parks, and beaches, and for annual permits. The agency amendment amends Section 1 to require that the annual inspection fee be assessed based upon linear footage of beachfront instead of linear square footage of beachfront. 902 KAR 10190 establishes requirements for splash pads operated by local government.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Julie Brooks, Regulation Coordinator for the Department for Public Health.
There's a microphone there in front of you if you want to try that.
Julie Brooks, Regulations Coordinator for the Department for Public Health.
And I'm Scott Brinkman. I'm with Connecting the Dots Policy Solutions, and I represent Hershen Entertainment Company, which through one of its affiliates owns and operates the Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay Amusement and Water Park in Louisville, Kentucky. And with me on my far right is Mr. Craig Ross, who's president of Kentucky Kingdom.
Thank you so much.
And we have program staff on Zoom as well.
Okay, thank you. There are agency amendments. Is there any discussion on the agency amendments? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval of the agency amendment? Second, we have a motion and a second. Without objection, it is so ordered. If you could briefly describe the reg. This was, I believe, deferred last month, and I understand there's been some feedback and back and forth, so if you could just briefly discuss that, please.
Sure. So we filed the amendment to the swimming pool regulation, back in the summer, actually, and deferred it to address some comments that we received. At the committee hearing in February, there were some additional concerns brought up, so we went back, talked about it. We met with stakeholders. We actually met with the Parks Department. Mr. Brinkman submitted some additional comments. So we worked through those at the department and then filed the agency amendment to address some of those concerns.
Okay.
And I'll be very brief. I just want to thank the committee for working with us and deferring the regulation. It's given us the opportunity to work with the cabinet, and the agency amendment meets our needs and concerns relative to staffing. We still have some residual issues with some safety equipment. We think that we can have the same flexibility afforded relative to personnel or staffing as it pertains to safety equipment. And we've had discussions with the cabinet, and we've agreed that over the next 30 to 60 days, we'll try to address those concerns in a mutually acceptable fashion. But I do want to thank the cabinet for working with us. It's been a very collaborative, cooperative, and productive effort. And again, I want to thank this committee for deferring the regulation and allowing us to work with the cabinet to get to the spot where we are today.
Thank you. Would you like to speak on just in favor, or you have
I'd just like to say safety is the most important thing we do, and we're following the standards that the industry uses across the world to ensure that water parks and related attractions are very safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question for the cabinet. The splash pad regs, I'm assuming, were there no regs in place, or is this were they limited? I'm assuming these things have popped up over the last 5 years or whatever, so this is in response to that, I'm assuming.
Yes, and there was a bill, and I forget the bill number, that was passed in the 2021 session that required us to have a separate regulation for splash pads operated by a local government.
Okay. I forgot about that one. Sorry. Okay. Any questions from members? Seeing none, I just want to thank the cabinet for receiving the comments, going back and working with stakeholders and bringing this back. We really appreciate it. I would say please call the next regulation, but this is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Yep. Thank you. That is the end of our agenda. I apologize for the early meeting, but like I said, it wasn't my fault. Trying to get a quorum.
The next meeting is scheduled for May 10th at 1 p.m. We're back on our second Tuesday of the month.
Okay. May 10th, any comment